Hello everybody and welcome along to Cairn Hill Cabin in County Cavan in Ireland, and my name is Margaret McKenna. Now today, as part of my series of live streams that I've been doing for adults and children on Facebook, I'm doing a painting using a palette knife today. Now this is a plastic palette knife. You can get them with metal with the wooden handles, but this is just they're quite cheap to buy. I like they like the plastic ones. They're quite flexible too, and they work quite well. And the other one just as well as the ordinary ones. So what I'm using today is acrylic paints. Now you could use oil paints. I've done quite an amount in oil paints, which are quite nice to use. Excuse me. The acrylic paints are quick to dry, whereas oil paints take a lot longer, especially if you're doing palette knife, because you use quite an amount of paint with a palette knife compared to you do with a brush. Now the picture today I have chosen is one of a bluebell wood, and I think I did this because this time of the year many of us will be so used to walking in our woods and forests in Ireland. Certainly around here we have Virginia Deer Park Wood, and we have up the road in just over the border in Westmeath we have Mullameen, and both woods are places I would go very regularly, and just they're absolutely beautiful now coming into this time of the year with the carpet of bluebells on the ground. And I love bluebells because the different shades of bluebells, we can't think of them as bluebells, but sometimes they're often more mauvey colouring. There's a lot of different shades of mauves and violets, as well as actually the blue shade of the flowers. So without much ado, I'll start the picture. So I'm actually going to flick across every now and again to another tab. I'm assuming you'll still be able to see me because the camera's on me, but I just have to flick over now and again just to see the picture that I'm looking at, because I'm just using the one computer today. I'm going to use a portrait rather than landscape, for the simple reason that I want to show the length of the trees in it. So just it gives it that feeling of the height of trees when you see the when you put on portrait. You could use it either this way either. It's a fairly small canvas, partly because I don't have to use too much paint on a smaller canvas either. It makes it easier to do for a class, because it could take quite a while. Okay, so what I'm going to start with is normally I would start on the background and work to the foreground. It's slightly different when you're doing a palette knife painting, because when you're doing a palette knife painting, it's much more about rather than the background. When in a normal painting, I would say think of it in terms like a stage, your background and all your props coming towards the front. Not quite the same. Because you're layering on the page, you're almost working left to right. You're much more working there's not as much of a background. You're working the different colours across the page because you're layering them on, and explain it as I go along. So I'll start now. I'm just going to flick over to the picture for a minute here, so I'll just be looking up the picture here. So I'm going to start with a little bit of where I see the blue sky coming in. So I'm using a little bit of my cerulean blue with some white. And I'm just taking it up, mixing it like this on the canvas. You can actually it's a great way to mix paints anyway, just using a palette knife, even when you're using brushwork, because it mixes it quite nicely compared to the brush, I think. Although often I just use a brush. So I'm just going to bring little flickers of it in and out between. Actually, I might just bring this over onto my phone actually as well, because I think when I'm seeing it on my phone, I'm conscious of the fact that I keep changing the tabs, so I'll be able to see it better. So I'm just going to bring this a little bit like this here. Okay, so I'm just going to go to this here now, and I'm just going to bring up my picture on my phone here so I can see it a bit better. So what I've done there now is I've just mixed the two colours, cerulean blue and white. I'm just flicking it out in between the trees. I'm not going to be too fussy about that I'm doing it exactly the same page as in the picture, because it's like an impression of what I'm seeing. Now, there's quite a lot of, you look at this, is springtime. So we're going to have a lot of different shades of really light, beautiful, kind of vibrant greens at this time of the year. So, but I'm going to start with the slightly deeper ones first. Now I have an olive green here, and I'm mixing a little bit of yellow in it. And I'm going to be quite casual now with the mix. Unlike if you can look, I've got the two colours on the brush at the same time, and I'm just going to flick this in and out. I'm not putting it too heavy just yet. If you notice, it's not as heavy as it could be, because often palette knife paintings are inclined to be much more. And I'm just going to work roughly. Let me see. We're going to work to about. I'm just doing roughly a line here for roughly where my horizon, as it were, is, where my Bluebell carpet takes over. It's a little bit deeper if you notice here. I'm just going to go around on the side here, so don't end up with the whites showing at the top. I'm just going to flip back over here a bit. Some nice bits of yellow coming through. And there's a real patch of a kind of a lovely shade of blue in the background. It is quite a cerulean type blue here, and I might add a little bit of my ultramarine to it. So I'm using ultramarine as a ultramarine and a cerulean blue here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of white through that too. So I'm just going to put the three of these together, and I'm bringing it down in this part here. There's a real. Actually, I'm going to bring it a bit smooth. I might even add a bit of the green into that as well. So it's like in the background here. I'm quite casual about my mixes. You see, and do the different mixes coming at the same time. I'm not being overly what would you say, exact on the on my different mixes. I want to add a little bit of green in and out through that cerulean, and it's a green, an olive green, and a bit of white, kind of mixed casually together, just in and out. I've seen these kind of colours in and out between the trees. So you can see, I'll bring that up to the edge a bit in here. Just wipe every now and again I just use a cloth to wipe my brush on here. It's an old tea towel I have here. I'm going to go back to some of my yellows and my, now if you notice I'm using little small cross strokes. I'm not using big wide strokes going across, just little small ones, and you're kind of getting that feeling of greenery gradually building up, the different shades going through, and there's bits of the bluey shades going as well through in the background. So we're just going to add lots of the more little shades. I'm starting to build it up now, you notice a little bit. It's getting a little thicker here, but I'm not going to do too much yet, because I'm going to still build up this carpet of colour bit by bit as I come across. I'm just going to flip over to my painting again here for a moment. I want to leave nice little bits of light coming in through the trees. You see, I can work on that a bit better later on as to where I actually want to concentrate on my leaves there. And don't forget, now you can come back and look at this bit by bit. Say it's here it'll be on the my page. You can see that properly now. And don't worry, I'll put this up, as I say, on the finished picture, as well, so that you can see it in better detail too, because sometimes it's easier to see it when you actually see the photograph at the end. Now I think I'm going to just leave that sort of for now. Just want to get a bit of colour. I put a bit of the light colour in here as well. Back to my blue and my cerulean and my white here as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, if you have any questions, please ask me as I'm going along. As I say, and if you don't, obviously some of you may not actually see it now, because it's such a nice day anyway. If you can get out in the garden, I suppose you'll probably be out there. It's lovely doing things outside. I've certainly been doing a lot outside in the last while, clearing lots of stuff away. And but you can always ask me later on the page if there's any questions at all. Please ask me, because I'm more than willing to help. Okay, so I'm going to just leave that for now. Now we're just going to go back over to my screen, have a look here, and I'm going to start with getting an overall idea of the carpet of bluebells on the ground. So I'm going to start with I have a sort of a purple kind of like I'm mixing it with a violet, deep violet kind of shade, and I'm going to mix that with my bit of my cerulean. Let's check if I'm holding this in the right place. Bit of my cerulean, and I'm going to bring it. Oh, there's a bit too much there. Too much of my cerulean blue coming through here. Now I'm going to dab this. Let's put this picture up here. Now we'll just get this dabbed. Let's have a look here. Actually, I'm going to put a bit more of it out, and I'm going to add a little bit of a crimson. Now personally I'd love to have some alizarin crimson, but I don't have any alizarin crimson at the moment. Alizarin crimson is a great shade of red. It's lovely for doing skies and that, for sunsets and that sort of thing. But this will suffice at the moment. I'm afraid I'm a bit low on my stock now at the minute. So sometimes, and I'm going to add a bit of white into that. So I mix a bit of the mauve shade, a bit of the red, and a bit of everything going on here. And I'm going to start bringing that in and out through it. We'll work on the bits, the shading afterwards, the light and shade, because there's quite an amount of light and shade too in this picture, which is absolutely gorgeous. But I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to get this overall sense of what's going on first, and then, as I say, we always work to the general, to the detail. And even on this, even though this will slightly different for it's much more, it's a great form of doing impressionist type of paintings, because you can really give an impression of what's going on rather than going into the whole detail of it. I'm just trying to get this picture up a bit better here if I can. I just might put it yeah, okay, that's grand. Oh, didn't need to put the green on there. So I'm just being a bit over enthusiastic there and putting it straight into my green. Okay, so I'm mixing a bit of those three colours. So it's my red, my mauvey colour, and a bit of my white. Just getting, and even a bit of the blue, of course. Sorry, a bit of blue. That's my cerulean blue I'm using here. And so I'm getting different shades of it coming down through the grass. And the main thing to notice about this is what I'm doing is that I'm actually changing. See how I worked crossways on the top? Do you notice how I'm not doing that on the bottom part? I'm going to put it out to the front where you can see it better. I'm working up and down. Look at these little motion up and down, and that's nearly more important nearly than the colour you put on the page often. Is actually, the actual I'm trying to get it in here so you can actually see it. I might just put something behind that now if I can. I'll put a thick brush maybe behind it here. Just don't want it to go back too far. That's better. Now, a little bit of ingenuity there. Get a little bit of, now here we go. So I'm just going to keep going with that, working that through. And I'm allowing, as you can see, I'm being very casual with my mix. I'm allowing, sometimes I'm letting it be purpley, sometimes I'm letting it be bluer, sometimes I'm letting it be slightly even redder even, and whiter, and all different. I'm allowing the different shades to come through. So I am, but I'm not finished with this. This is not the finished article, as it were. It's a shame we can't get to see the bluebells these days, but in the forest. But still, hopefully, when this is all over, they'll probably be gone by that stage. But at the same time, if you think about it, nature is still going on there in the forest, the same as ever. It's like just totally doing its own thing in the background. Not a bit concerned about what we're at, which is kind of nice. I'm just going to go flick over this one here for a minute. I can see there's lots of greenery coming in through here. If you can check, you can see the picture on my Facebook page that I'm doing anyway. And I'm going to add bits of green here at this stage. Even a little bit. And again, this is the grass coming through. So this is, again, I'm not going crossways. I'm going downways. I'm just going to go over the edge of the picture here because I don't want to get a white rim on the edge of it. And I'm using my yellow and my olive green in this case. You could use a sap green. It's quite a sap green kind of a shade, this actually. rather than a viridian. A viridian can be very, very bluey kind of a green, which has its own place too, in fact. Sometimes, especially if you're doing things like forests or like, you know, pine forests and all, I would use inclined to use a lot more viridian kind of a shade in it than I would for, say, grass. But it depends too. Sometimes shadows, a viridian kind of shade would be good. So I'm just going to, and you see I'm starting to layer just little tips. It's quite a nice relaxing kind of picture, this, because it's I say, compared to last week when I was doing the portrait, which is much more concentrating, case of concentration, because you have to really think about what you're doing, and you know, it's not when you have to try to capture the lightness. This is really much more impressionist. It's much about capturing the light and shade, which to me now is the most, nearly one of the most important parts of a picture, is to capture what you want about a picture. Now that's, to me, is the essence of a picture in a sense. I mean, I'd hate to think that somebody is doing this and trying to copy exactly what I'm doing. I mean, if I was to do this again, I couldn't do it again. I would never, well, I mean, in the sense that I couldn't do the same again exactly, because it's never going to be the same. So each time you do it, think of it with fresh eyes. Think of it, this is, what do I want to get out of this picture? What is it that is attracting me to this picture to start with? So I did a picture yesterday. You can see it on my page. It was a stormy sea, which was actually taken from the photography of Adam Rory Porter Photography. He's on Facebook, and he did an amazing picture of Donegal, the waves crashing in. And when I saw it a few days ago, I said, oh, I have to do that. I just have to do it. It's just absolutely gorgeous. That photograph just captures everything, and he had captured in the photograph a sense of power and drama and nature, and I just thought, oh, that's what I wanted to capture in the picture. So that's what I set out to do. It didn't matter if that wave didn't exactly match the way. I tried to get it overall similar. And same with this, I'm trying to get an overall sense of light and shade, and that feeling of being under the trees. So I'm just going to go back to my picture here now for a minute. And then let me see. I'm going to, right, okay, so we're going to put some nice light bits in at the moment here. So we're going to add more white. The background here. I'm going to add a bit of a little more purpley shade out, actually. A little bit of purple. I'm using that's quite a cheap brand now. Some of the brands I'd use will be more, much more, what would you say? Much more expensive. Well, not more expensive. I don't actually use that many expensive ones, to be honest. But some of them are more expensive than others, and they've much more stronger pigment, and that's the difference really. A lot of the time is the coverage, how they cover, how the pigment that's in the different tubes, whereas some of them are far more well, they're just lighter. They don't have the same depth as the other ones do. So these ones wouldn't, but they're okay for this kind of work. It's absolutely fine. I often use cheaper brands as well. Sometimes just a colour catches my eye and I say, oh, that's a nice colour, I must get that, and I just go for it. So I'm mixing a little bit of my movie shades here with a nice bit of white. Good lot of white here, because I really want to get the light and shade on the back of this. So I want to just check something here on this. Sorry, I'm just going over to the page here for a second, because I'm just trying to get my the event here. Now just trying to get my this coming up. Okay, now see if I can see myself all right. Oh yeah, I can. Okay, that's fine. So I can, okay, so we're going to have a nice little bit of light and shade in the back. So I'm going to lay on this really light bit in the background, because there's quite a lot of light coming through the trees in the background, and it's much more white, tipping it along. And I'm going to do the same coming through here. Now I'm really tapping this on, barely tipping. I'm just going to map out where I'm putting them first of all, and I might go back. As a tree over, I'm just getting my bearings in the picture, because this is a narrower picture than I have on the thing, because it's actually a square picture in reality, one that's I'm copying from. I'm sort of adjusting the adjusting it slightly to match my page, if you know what I mean, this shape, which we have to do. There's a bit too much white there, but that's fine. Don't worry about that yet. I'm just going to mapping it out, so I'll be going back and getting the light shades and the deeper shades in a minute. Now, just go back there for a second. Okay, so I'm using my, and I might bring a little bit of my blue, light blue. I'm going to use a lot of my, see, just mixing it here, just very lightly. Put more blue into it. I'm just going to tip it, and I'm going to go back with the dark again in this. This is not, as it were, finalized by any means. I'll say if you have any questions at all, please ask me, because I'm really would love to hear what any of your questions, and just let me know if that's you know, if there's any suggestions you have for anything that you particularly would like to do. I'm just going to add some odd little ones now down to the foreground here. Again, I'm playing around with these different shades that I have, the blue, the cerulean blue, the mauve shade, a little bit of the red in places, and the white. And I'm just tapping them on top, so I'm coming through the grass. So that's quite blue, so I'm going to just bring a little bit of purple in through that, and just tip it along. Tipping it along here, and in here. Oops, I've fallen out of my hand here. It's quite a nice way to paint. It's a really relaxing way to paint, to be honest. I find I really enjoy doing these, and it's funny, I haven't done them for years. I just sort of got back into doing them recently, and I did a really big one not long ago, actually. Well, maybe a couple of months ago, of Patrickstown Hill on the way up to Lough Crew. Another place that I'd love to go and visit more again, but at the moment it's just out of bounds. Not too far away, just over 2 kilometers, maybe about 5 kilometers from here as the crow flies. But unfortunately, that's just too far away at the moment. So we're going to bring nice white light bits, just tip. Little tips along the top. Putting bits of white. You can see I'm just really playing around with these shades. And of course it does look a bit, all of it. And now I'm going to come in with a deeper, I'm going to add a bit of our yellow ochre, say, our ultramarine even. And that's a little bit deeper, and I'm going to add that into our mauve shade here. And I'm going to bring that in and out through here. Just flicking it in and out. The darker shades, because see there's quite a lot, there's a collection of trees here in the foreground. And I want them to so we can just look here. So I'm just gradually building it up here, so it's quite thick here now, the paint. And just do the odd thing, so these are more divided up because there's green coming through them, and I'll add more green coming through as well. I'll add more of my purple or my ultramarine here as well, coming through here. It's amazing when you put the trees in. Oh my god, that makes such a difference. It's like, often, and we're doing drawings in class, and I say, when can you get the trees in? I say, when can you get the trees in? And they kind of think, the minute the trees go in, it's like, oh my god, they sort of think, oh wow, that makes such a difference. And it really does. So just you can, and the great thing about this is you can actually scrape with it too. So not only can you use it to paint to layers, but you can actually scrape back little bits too. So you can get, you can get that little texture to the with the scrape back technique, as well as actually doing it with the put layering your paint on it as well. I'm going a bit deeper here, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue into my green here, just for the more shadowed pieces. Because there's quite a lot of shadow in this area here. We're so lucky here in Ireland at the moment with our weather. I mean, yesterday wasn't great for Easter Sunday, but we've had such good weather considering we haven't got a great winter. It was very wet, very windy and wet. Seem to be permanently having gales and storms. So we're lucky that the weather at least it's nice to see sunshine outside. Even if we can't go far, it's still nice just to see it. So much, we're lucky that way. So, and it's not often we get be lucky with the weather here. So we have to be thankful for small mercies, as they say. Now I'm going to add a bit more of the yellowy, and I actually might add a bit of white into this as well. I'm adding a bit of white here if I can. I'm going to make this really light in places. So I'm after my yellowy green colour. Again, sort of a semi-mix, and I'm just going to stick it in and out through here, because the reason I put a bit of white is it just really boosts the sunlight effect on it. But not too much white, because you want the yellow in it too, because it'll just goes doing it too sort of limey in colour either. So I'm going to just put a bit of building this through here. So building our, let me get a little bit in here as well. Again, as I say, it's like the impression is what I'm trying to get of this, rather than every single bit being exact. Yes, okay, I'm just looking at the picture there. Let's see, a bit more yellow out. Looking forward to putting in these trees now, I have to be honest. So as I say, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be more than willing to answer. And also, if you have any too over the top there. If you have anything you'd like me to do, a demonstrate, and that if I can do it at all, I will do it. I would love to do it. It's always good to have a challenge. I don't mind. I enjoy all the challenges that way to do. So please, oops, I know there's my, let everything fall. Tighten the lid on it more, would be handy, so it won't fall off. And I'll just back here for a minute now. Let's have a look here. More shadow in here. So yeah, so please let me know any questions, any about the artwork that you think that might give you a hand or help you to tackle it. And don't be afraid. That's the one thing I say. Please don't be afraid, because really it is only art. It's not life and death. I mean, there's so many things that are so important and are going on that are much more serious in the moment. That's not to say that the arts are not serious, and that's the one thing. And I think really now, at this time, people are realizing how the arts, and when I say the arts, I mean everything in terms of the arts. I mean, we're at home, we're listening to more music, we're looking even looking at Netflix, even looking at films on Netflix. That's the arts. I mean, many actors started in drama schools. They started doing started a local, they started doing the drama. They started on stage. They started even in film. It was basically drama classes, even as kids. Writing, reading, reading good novels. We write. It's things that are really good for our mental health at the moment. Are so important, and I think that the arts, hopefully when this is all over, that it will be realised how important the arts actually are, that they're not something just to be just as an accessory, as it were, to life, because they're really what get people through times. Now, okay, so we'll leave that for a minute. Now I'm going to come back. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually start to put in my trees, and this is kind of fun. Okay, so We have lots of different layers of trees. We've got trees in the background, we've got trees towards the foreground. Of course, as they get towards the front, they get thicker. So I'm just going to get my my brown here, and I'm going to get some more blue. So what I'm going to do for my trees is I'm going to mix. Oh dear, that's very thick now. I just want to get a bit more brown out if I can. Find where I put my brown. Here it is. Yes, indeed. There we go. Nice. Now, I might put even a bit more of the blue out. So ultramarine. Now, what I use for this is ultramarine and burnt umber. You could use raw umber. You could use Van Dyke Brown. Van Dyke Brown is a very dark shade. So notice how little. Actually, change. I might use wash my thing. I just usually just wipe it off. So I'm going to get a mixture of these now. This bit. Okay, so I'm just going to mark it, and this is really rough now at the moment. Just going to see which trees I'm even putting in now, because there's a lot more trees in that than I probably. But I do know I want to put one here because there's one here because there is maybe one or two small ones here. So I'm just going to mark here because it's this, and there's another one somewhere behind it. So don't worry about that just now. I'm just literally just marking where they are, so that I can just, and we have another one sort of here somewhere. There's lots of them. I'm taking the main ones at the minute, and I'm just kind of getting my bearings, because again, I'm not going to try and religiously copy this, every bit of this picture. I'm just going to, there's another one maybe in here. So I'm kind of going to do my own. I want to see where the shadows are. That's what I do need to see though. So I'm going to have to put one maybe here as well. I have to kind of work to my shadows as much as what the picture is. That's very important, because you know, you could decide, okay, I'm going to do all this, and you get this ground in one grand here, and you've got the light and shade, and then what happens is you put the trees not where you have your shadows, if you get me. So you have to work out where your shadows are. So I want to kind of get mine, because the trees are creating these dark areas. These dark areas aren't sort of random. They're there because there is shadows being created by the trees. Oh, that went a bit wide up there, didn't it? So that's off in a minute. Might make that a bit bigger, make it closer. So actually, there's a big tree. There is a big tree here, and I might make that the big tree. I'm going, as I say, I have to change it a little bit different than in the picture, because mine is further. It's a different shape. So, and that's the other thing, and adjust it according to the shape of your canvas and that, you know. So, I'm going to, okay, there we go. And I'm going to bring a few down like this. And a few in the background as well. So I'm going to start doing the lines in the background now. It's going to be little narrow trees here. The thing is, the trick is I'm trying to use the point a bit more, but don't have too much, and yet don't have nothing on it either. That's why I haven't done too much thickness on the back one at the moment, because the back areas are I don't want to be going over too many humps and bumps, if that makes sense. I'll put one's going this way as well, because the trees are not all going to be going one direction. I should actually. I'm going to put a little bit of white actually into these trees as well. The reason is because it's background trees, which are not quite as dark as the foreground trees. I don't know if you can hear my dog out there. He's wandering around outside barking at anything he sees. That's a bit of a mad yoke sometimes. Now, just going to go back, keep going in here. You use up a lot of paint on these or on the palette knife pictures. I'm just going I'm doing this very lightly. I'm working these now. I'm going to work these back up a bit, some of these, because you can see I don't mind the light back ones. I'm going to put these, and I'm going to make the other ones a bit more definite in a minute. Going to come back in with my brown. This brown is quite thick, so just get near the end of the tube too, which is not good. I might have another one somewhere. I have to dig it out and look at it and see if I can find it. So I will. But you never know, we might be lucky enough. Just rub this off. I'm going to just actually probably I find that oil is actually the handier one to use this one. It moves much. So this is the side of the knife as well. And very softly. I think it's the trick is just to when you turn the knife, you can kind of pick up where you have the paint on the knife. You know, it's like using a brush. Sometimes I twirl a brush in my hand to get all the paint off at different times. So. Now you can start to see it happening here, bit by bit. This is probably the slowest part of it really, because you're just trying to gently lay them down on the big thing. I mean, you could wait until it all dries, but to be honest with you, it doesn't really, it still will kind of have that same effect. It's not even so much the fact that I'm afraid of moving the stuff underneath. It's just trying to get that, because it goes over the ridges of the it goes over the paint, you know what I mean? It actually goes with the layer, you know, the bumps of the paint on the canvas, if that makes sense. So I'm just coming to see if some light ones, and I'm bringing some dark ones through here as well. And I can put some odd little branches coming through. That's where I take it there, but I'll just bring it through. Yeah. Bring that down like this. Make this one quite big. Kind of getting away a bit from the picture here. I'm just kind of every now and again just checking back on it. I'm not going to religiously say copy every single tree that's in that picture. It's kind of called a bluebell forest, so it's just giving that impression of. I suppose this is a wood. I would call this a very much of an impressionist type of a picture. How are we doing there? Those ones there, crisscross the branches. I would say. I'm just going to bring this down like that. A big tree actually, rather than separating it into two different trees, because it makes more sense really. I could put a branch coming across then from over here. Like that. I will make one of these dark as well. The light one in the background, so I can make this one a dark tree here. It's okay, it is, I think. Now we're going to try and bring this one a bit bigger. Now, I might bring a branch from that one there. I can have a branch coming off. Give it a little bit of a variation so they're not all just like poles, like telephone poles. So we get a little bit of a variation on them. Now, one here. Now I might put a lighter one in the background there. I'm just going to add a bit more of my white into there. Just add a 2 white maybe. Let's go in the background there like that. Now I'm just going to give that a bit of a wipe. In fact, I actually might give it a bit of a wash this time. I'm just going to go back to my other colours for a minute. There we go. Now I'm going to go back here and I'm just going to get my whitish, my light colour here, which is my light bluey, purpley colour. I'm just going to tip along a few of these places in between the trees. And just catch up and see where do I need to put the shadows again. So I can use the tips. I often turn the palette knife this way for the smaller bits. Depending. I'll go a bit over this side here. The reason I squint my eyes sometimes is because I find, I think I've said this before, is that I find it actually helps. It's almost like you're standing back from the picture. And when you're in a position like at the moment, I can't really keep moving backwards and forwards. I kind of squint my eyes, and it almost gives the impression that you're not seeing it. You're seeing it further away, so you can see what's happening in the greater scheme of things, as it were, and rather than just focusing on little bits. I might bring that there because I want that to make it look as if there's a tree behind that big one that we can't quite see. So I wonder if that actually, that dark bit, go off behind that tree. Just makes it look like as if there's a I'm just going back for my picture now again, so that I can just have a look at it better. Now I'm going to work a bit, a bit of a cleaning off here, and I'm going to try and see there's a nice lot of sunlight coming through this tree, so I'm going to actually get some clean white here for a moment. Just move this out of the way here for a second. It's amazing what you use for a palette knife, for a palette board, or yep, a mixing tray. You use all kinds of things. Lots of this from chicken sizes, and it comes in handy. It's amazing. What about a hint of the really light coming through the tray here? I'm just kind of flicking it out into sort of a dry. I'm going to make that particularly bright, maybe underneath here. Little tips of white in there. Now, okay, so what we're down to do now is I'm going to start doing my layer of leaves, because at the moment the leaves are sort of a background, sort of really on the background. So I'm going to go back and get more yellow out. A good yellow would be, this is actually a process yellow, or a cadmium yellow. It's quite a nice yellow. Either one is a good strong, decent yellow. Not the deep cadmium yellow. There's different kind of cadmium yellows. Depends on which make you go for. Winsor Newton cadmium yellow is quite light, quite a dark one, whereas cadmium yellow in a Dahlia, for example, is much lighter. So I'm going for, it's a middle colour. So I'm going to start tipping my leaves across, because remember now, and also if you think of the leaves in the autumn, or sorry, in the spring, they almost go in rows nearly across this. And we're actually got a bit of white in this as well. So I'm going to add a bit of the white into my leaves, and I'm just going to go ahead there now and work away here on my picture. So you can see it's quite a nice, bright, airy kind of a, oops, make sure that I don't put too much on the palette at the same time as you turn to be blobs. So I'm going to work them across. across the top of my, and because I'm barely tipping it, I'm not mixing with the undercolor. You know what I mean? I'm not actually getting the effect of having the what could happen is you could end up getting your brown mixing up with it, but I'm not getting that because of the fact that I'm tipping some more detail back ones in the background and letting them go across the main body of the trees as well. So I'm just going to tip it on. As I say, it's not taking up the brown with it for the simple reason that I'm just tipping it along, so it's not actually getting time to spread or attach itself to drag the brown with it. If it does, it doesn't really matter. You can easily go back and it's easy to go and tip it along it instead, you know. As I say, it's just I've got a few little middle ones there. I'm nearly on a point with this here. And I've mixed my green, my yellow and my white together because it gives it a nice lightness, and it's at springtime. There's a particular lightness to the leaves in spring which you don't see for the rest of the summer. It's particularly lovely. There's just that baby leaves on the trees and they're just gorgeous. And they'll just come out in, as I say, little layers, like, you know, of leaves. That's why you see I had the undercolor, which was a little bit darker, so it shows these up against it then. Just check over here for a second. Yep. So the canopy of trees upstairs a bit more. Just let me choose the nice and yellowy ones come through too. I've a bit blocked in here, so I'm going to break that dark area green up a little. See, I'm leaving a lot of what I had below already. I'm already on the. I'm not going over all my green by any means. Just a bit more yellow out here. And as I say, I'll put a photograph of this up online immediately I've done it, so you'll be able to see it better. But I don't know how we see it on the screen. It's really hard for me to judge from here what you're seeing. I say you'll be able to see it afterwards, and I'm also going to put it on YouTube as well. Oh, a bit too white there now. I didn't mix it quite enough. Just put a bit more yellowy kind of colour there. Now just a few little ones up here. Through here. And I'm just going to bring a few across into the shadow there. You see the bluey shade coming through in the background, which will give it, oops, a big lump there. Felt that. That's fine. And this will happen, so you just drag it across. Just break it up. These happen all the time. It's great thing about doing live ones because you can't sort of edit it, you know, you have to just go with whatever happens, like, you know. I'm sure that's what happens normally when you're painting. This does happen all the time. This isn't exactly how you want it to go sometimes. But you know, the thing about it is you can always change it to make it look. In fact, often the mistakes are the best bits of the picture. Often, you know, a bit I look back and I'm glad that happened, you know, because that's the nicest bit of the picture. So really, it does. Now, and then I'm just going to add a few more little bits through here. And I'm at it, just a few little touch up a few of these little light. Give it a cheeriness. And even a few in the background. because it won't be just all bluebells in the sunshine. There'll be little bits of. This is where I'm just doing myself. I'm not even looking at the picture now. I'm just kind of picking out my area, what I feel it needs, as it were. Leaving this area dark because that's in shadow. It's the shadow from the tree and it's coming out towards you because you can see the sunlight is behind it there. I'm just going to pick one or two little bits like that. And maybe one or two little bits there. And I think we're and yeah, I think I'm happy enough with that. As I say, I'm going to take a picture of that now and I'll put it up on Facebook. So I hope now you've learned some little thing. You can see how I didn't work quite as much on the background the way I would as a normal picture, like doing this whole background effect and then layering it. I did a rough kind of background, but I was more doing the bits that were peeping through the trees because you're kind of working in a different way. You're kind of layering the paint rather than sort of like with a normal picture, as it were, a brush picture. I often would put a sort of a background, sort of lighter, and then gradually work on top of it. This, you're kind of working in between the trees, kind of slightly lightly layering it, not too heavy initially, and then putting in the green bits rather than kind of putting a whole lot of blue and then putting the green on top of it, which is often how I would normally work, because it's just as handy to kind of work from back to front. So okay, so as you can see, then also the main part of the importance is in the background. I was working my strokes were going crossways, you know, working that and down, and here from the very beginning, my first stroke I put on it, it was all small little strokes downwards, so to give the impression of grass, to give the impression of the bluebells. And it is all about the impression. The whole idea is to give that feeling of light, the light and shade. Make sure you know that your trees kind of correspond where your shadows are, so that if you put down your shadows and when you put your trees, because especially if you're using a picture as a starting point rather than as a really copying every detail, if you put the shadows on it and then put your trees in a different place, you'll realize they don't add up. So just be conscious of, if you put your shadows in a certain place, that's where your trees will go. They will go behind that shadow because they are causing the shadow. They're not, the shadows aren't just randomly there for no reason. So I hope you got something out of it today, and hopefully I'll be back on next Monday with another picture. And in the meantime, I have a Tuesday. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Yes, I have 12 noon class for children, and we're doing, actually somebody asked for the Eiffel Tower. So I'm going to do what I think will be a lovely, somebody else had asked for sunset, so I'm going to do the mixture of the two and have a nice silhouette with the Eiffel Tower and against the sunset. So if you know any children, because it'll be aimed at children, but you can have a go at yourself, who'd like to join me at 12 o'clock tomorrow noon, that'll be brilliant. And please share the video if you can, because I just want people to hopefully join in and maybe have a little bit of time out and paint and relax. And you know, it's strange times we're living in at the minute, so it's a good way to tune out. When I'm painting, I don't think of anything to do with this whole isolation at all. I'm just in my own world. So I hope you too enjoy it as much. Listen, until next time, thanks a million, and bye bye.